All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football the morning after Auburn versus Georgia. And I know a lot of you guys may be doing the virtual church thing or actually at church, especially in the Deep South, the Bible Belt. But either way, we're going to talk about, just for a few minutes, we're going to talk about the Auburn versus Georgia game from last night. I actually did a live stream last night immediately after the football game that kind of garnished some criticism as to, placing blame on Bo and wanting to fire Gus Malzahn and all of this other stuff. But I want to really dig into how we got to where we are at this point. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Okay, so Auburn surrenders a 27-6 loss to the Georgia Bulldogs last night in Athens, Georgia. Many people leading into this football game thought that because of Georgia's quarterback situation, that would give Auburn a little leverage in this game. But what a lot of folks didn't account for was line of scrimmage play on both sides of the football field. One, the defense really didn't give Auburn much of a chance as far as being able to maintain whatever game plan that they had in place. And the offensive line was really abysmal against they were just outclassed by Georgia's defensive line. So we're going to look at a few things that led to this end for Auburn. Auburn loses this game 27-26 to what I thought. Okay, now if you go back to a couple of my videos, I told you all that this would be a game that Auburn would more than likely lose. I did a recap of the season and what I thought would happen. And this was a game that I thought we would lose. Now, did I think we would lose 27-6? Of course not. But I thought this was a game that we would be outclassed, that we would be outmanned, especially not having the advantage of having spring football. Zoom meetings, you have a brand new offensive line coach, you have a brand new offensive coordinator, and for you people say, oh, you're just making excuses. No, I'm absolutely not. I'm just being real right here. Really cozy, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining the show this morning. So as we recap the Auburn versus Georgia, another thing I want to tell you guys that this is not all doom and gloom. Georgia had absolutely a good football team. And Brian Hughes, you're absolutely right. When Auburn, this is the stuff I'm talking about. Auburn is not going to lose to Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? We have a better team than Arkansas. We have recruited better than Arkansas. We will play more confidently against a team like Arkansas at home. It's just kind of crazy when Auburn loses a football game. All of a sudden, it's all doom and gloom. Come on, guys. Let's not do that. You know what I'm saying? Let's absolutely not do that. So as we recap the Auburn versus Georgia game, very tough loss for the Tigers, and it begins up front. We expected for Auburn to be able to at least maintain the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the football field. But when you have a really good, a really talented, a really balanced Georgia team, you give them almost 6 to 7 yards per play on first down, you limit your opportunities. You're playing on your heels pretty much the whole game. You have a guy like Stetson Bennett, who is a walk-on, throw for 240 yards because now the running game is a factor. You have to account for the running game. Now when you go play action, the linebackers react. You know what I'm saying? So those are things you got to take into account. The more I look at quarterback before Jarrett Stidham, Bo is the only quarterback that I have seen that rolls to the right and can't throw an accurate pass. Now, that was the case for the most part, but actually I saw Bo Nix be a little bit more educated with his scrambles this time. He actually stayed in the pocket in some situations, which leads me to believe that he's starting to be a little bit more comfortable with stretching plays out in the pocket. So as it stands, let's look at the stats, though. Let's look at why Auburn just really had a hard time in this game. For one, you got Bo Nix going 21 for 40 for 177 yards and 1 interception. 1, you can't win like that. Two, when your leading receiver is Tank Bigsby, the true freshman running back, no call, no show from Anthony Schwartz and Seth Williams, that's when you have even more problems. Okay. Tank Bigsby was actually 7 receptions for 68 yards. That is absolutely not going to work if you plan on being able to beat some of the elite teams of the SEC. Now, I think for anyone to say that Auburn will lose to Arkansas, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Home game, 4:00 game on the SEC network. Auburn is going to be ready for this. I'm so glad our team is young. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team looks like in a few weeks. War Eagle, yes, I thoroughly enjoy all that I do for the Auburn Tigers as far as coverage. Actually, a graduate from Auburn, finished there in 2002 with a degree in criminology with a concentration in psychology. For those who don't know, the hardest part about being in the liberal arts department or in the liberal arts at Auburn is trying to navigate through the Haley Center. Good luck. Your first day of class, you're going to be late because you're wandering around trying to figure out how to find your class. So it is what it is. Now, if Auburn is going to be successful down the stretch, number one, the time of possession situation has to be fixed. For the second week of the row, for the second week in a row, teams have dominated the time of possession. And if Auburn doesn't fix that, they're going to struggle in pretty much every game they play. You can't have a team like Georgia that has 30 plus minutes of time of possession and you only have 23. And in those time of possessions, you're pretty much out of rhythm because you're playing catch up. When you get down 24-0 against a team that is probably one of the more elite talented teams in the country, it's not going to bode too well for you. Now let's talk about the recruiting though. Good morning. Get my son okay, here's my question. Has your son got the 1,000 subscribers yet? Because we got to get that done, man. I mean, it's been a couple of months, man. We got to get your son to 1,000 subscribers. And if I didn't, I did subscribe. Actually, I did subscribe. Y'all go ahead and subscribe. If you're on the channel today, go ahead and subscribe to Get My Son 1,000 Subscriber Challenge. Now, if I may ask, what is it that your son, what is his content? Does he do gaming? Does he do Fortnite, all that other stuff? Just tell the fan base what he actually does on his stream. I feel like offensive line will have no choice but to grow up for an experienced offensive line. This is, I really think, that this offensive line is a work in action. The unfortunate part is the offensive line, one, did not have the benefit of spring football. I knew that would be a challenge. Also, even during summer camps, really didn't have a chance to piece together what they could actually offer as far as a solid offensive line. And another thing that was didn't bode in their favor is the fact that you have no cupcakes. You have no games to figure this thing out. You're winging it pretty much all through the season in an all SEC schedule. Now, I think this Arkansas game will give the opportunity for the offensive line to really piece together some things that will help them down the stretch. Anyone who thinks that Arkansas will beat Auburn is absolutely out of their minds. But hey, I'm just here. All right, so let's read some of the comments. Laugh out loud. No, not yet. Thanks, bro. No, he is a 3-year-old and just making these 3. What? Short videos, haven't done too many because I just started working a new job. Plus, I don't get why we ran loads of empty personnel with terrible pass protection. Now, here, my thing was this. I saw a lot of pass packages with Auburn to where we're still not utilizing the intermediate portion of the football field. And I think that's something that we're going to have to get a little bit better at, is trusting the intermediate portion of the football field. And I think once Auburn got behind, they felt that urgency to have to make some big plays, when really, if you look at it from a number standpoint, Auburn was only down 21 points for the most part. And if you think about it, if you chip away, kind of like what they did last year, it gives you the opportunity to get back into the football game. And I just don't think from a play calling standpoint and from a coaching standpoint, Auburn gave themselves a chance to chip away and get back into the football game. And that's the bottom line. And when you have a team that is good as Georgia, that plays so well on defense, they create a lot of anxiety, guys. You know, you talk about some of the best defensive backs in the country, very good at the linebacker position, very good at the defensive front to bring those different blitz packages in to confuse Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix responded okay. For all of you guys out there that was just wanting me to just bash Bo Nix, I'm not going to do it. Okay, I'm absolutely not going to do it because Bo Nix is still in a position to where he can have a really, really good season. Whoever thinks we're losing shouldn't even say war. You know, you said it, not me. You know what I'm saying? You said it, not me. Just because of a tough loss to a team that I thought we'd lose to anyway, I don't think that garnishes any level of thinking that we're going to lose to Arkansas, especially not at home, and especially with how I think we're going to respond. We got a lot of information from this particular football game about what kind of team we have, and it's not an absolutely awful team. This is a team that needs some work on the offensive line, a team that needs to kind of get real things back in as far as how we're going to utilize the receivers. But hey, let me tell y'all something. Tank Bigsby has shown to be the guy. He runs at a different kind of level. Once he gets comfortable, once this offensive line gets some type of continuity, I think we'll be all right. We got a nice stretch leading up to the Alabama game to where we will be favored to win all of those games. Now, you're going to watch in a couple of weeks. Georgia's a good football team and probably has a very good chance to either win or lose a very close game to a very talented Alabama team. So, hey, you got to let this play out. This is an all SEC schedule. There's no room for error. And especially having to play a team as talented as Georgia the first couple of weeks of the season puts you kind of in an adverse position. And really, you know, you got to give this thing a chance to play out. No fall camp, like I said before, no spring football. I really saw bits and pieces of what I think can be a successful season. Also, losing Jalen Simpson was what hurt pretty bad. Losing Smoke Monday early in the football game, who is kind of the quarterback of the defense in addition to KJ Britt. It looked like KJ Britt was kind of battling injuries throughout the game. So it was just one of those games, guys. Okay, so here's the deal. I played football in high school. Didn't want to play in college. Man, it's too much work. Those guys work way too hard for me. But at the beginning of the season, we struggled a little bit. We lost to a couple of teams that we probably looking back later on in the season. Hell, I wish we could have played them again because we had improved so much as the season went on. We started out 0-4. This is for those of you who are familiar, this was back in 1997. And I went to Notasulga High School, which is almost jogging distance from Auburn. Not quite, but pretty close. We started that season off 0-4. And because we believed in ourselves, we continued to improve. We actually went 6-6 that season. We beat Brantley in the first round of the playoffs, who was heavily favored. They were like one of the top 5 teams in the state. And then we battled Maplesville in the second round of the playoffs. So you can't tell me that this team, with the coaching staff in place, these coaches are not bad. Not bad at all. I'm not going to bash the coaching staff. It was a bad football game. So as we talk about this, it is closer to Tuskegee, actually in Macon County, which is where Notasulga is. I'm actually from the great city of Tuskegee, home of the Tuskegee Airmen and the great Tuskegee University and George Washington Carver and the great Booker T. Washington, the first principal of Tuskegee University. Here's the thing. Let's see. It's gonna be like 2000 if we go. See, and that's the thing, man. I'm over the bandwagon stuff. Either you're on the boat or you're not. You know what I'm saying? We are not in a position at Auburn to where, number one, we're it's still possible to needs to be tremendous. Yeah, we 2017, man, we struggle with Mercer. We struggle with all kind of teams, and then down the stretch, we wind up beating two #1 teams in the month of November, and everything was all good. So the way Gus has tendencies to lose games, his way is getting tiresome. Why is this? Okay, so I'm not letting Gus Malzahn off the hook at all, because you are the head coach. You have ownership of everything that goes on with your football team. But what I will say is this is a team under development. I think this team has the opportunity to really do some good things this year. Tank Bigsby is, like I said before, is really gave me some hope. Kobe Hudson even got in the game. Y'all remember Kobe Hudson, right? One of the top recruits of the 2020 recruiting class out of, is it LaGrange? Was he from LaGrange? I think so. But either way, he caught a pass in the game, and it's starting to show the bits and pieces as to what can make this team successful down the stretch. There is a possibility, though, if Auburn, that was a real, if Auburn is able to win out and give themselves an opportunity down the stretch like they did in 2017, this whole conversation we got going on, we're not even going to talk about it, right? So one thing that, and just like Get My Son 1,000 Subscriber Challenge says, we got to recruit better on the offensive line. And I think Auburn is really trying to do that. They're making an effort. They understand the position that they're in at the offensive line, and really get some guys in here who are, we talk about the developmental piece, but when you have talent, the developmental piece is not as challenging, because, you take Alabama, you take Georgia, those guys are ready to play football when they get off the boat or when they get off the bus or wherever they come from. And that's where Auburn has to get. Now, let me give you a little bit of recruiting 101 as to why you have been deceived in thinking that those top 10 recruiting classes that Auburn has had in the past should lead to success. Now, let me help you all out with the numbers part. So in the early stages of Gus Malzahn's recruiting, here's what you got. You got a high-end 5-star recruit, 99.9. That's a high number. That can actually inflate a recruiting class and make it seem better than what it is. But what you got to look at in a recruiting class is, but man, I don't know, learn or not. Oh, appreciate it, man. But either way, what you got to look at is, yeah, you might have a top 10 recruiting class from a number standpoint, but you got to really dissect the whole class. So let's just use, for an example, the class that Joey Gatewood was in. He was actually the top rated recruit in that particular class, right? But look at the guys, look at the drop off between Joey Gatewood and, say, the middle tier of the class. The roster builders are found between that 95 and 92 recruiting ranking. That's what builds your roster. And what Auburn has had, although they've had top rated recruiting class, it was actually inflated by a top recruit. And that's not how you build a team. You build a team with your 4-stars, your high-end 4-stars, your 4-stars, 4-stars, 4-stars. Then it kind of sort of tapers off. But the way Auburn had tapered off in the past is that you go from a 99 recruit. Your middle is kind of okay, but then you taper off with these guys like Cameron Brown with the 82%. No disrespect to Cameron Brown. I think he's a good football player. But when you start to look at what you need to look at is the bottom part of the middle to bottom part of the recruiting class. And that's where you're going to see what how your recruiting class goes. Okay, so confirm Bo Nix is trash. The O-lines are, this is going to be a long season. Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. War Eagle anyway, right? We don't get a lot of 5-stars. See, that's the thing. You don't need them. You don't particularly need them, because sometimes you have a high-end 4-star recruit, like, say, Tank Bigsby last year. He was not a 5-star recruit. He was close. But when you start looking at the middle of the class and you see a lot of 94s, 93s, 92s, and then it tapers off maybe at the lowest 88, then that's when you start to build your roster. We don't get a lot of 5, a lot of 4 stars, but Gus has failed at O-line. Oh, no. You know, I don't discount the fact that the offensive line recruiting has been absolutely terrible. You cannot win with the kind of offensive line recruiting we've done over the last few years. I think with Jack Bicknell as the offensive line coach, there has been some effort made to improve in this position, and he just got there. What the hell are you going to develop? You can't develop an offensive lineman in a damn Zoom meeting. You have to put them in positions. You have to put them in situations. And the unfortunate part is they're having to put them in situations in actual games. So that's what we're looking at. No, not all 5 stars pan out, but when they do, they really do. Derek Brown, one of the best, highest rated recruits in Auburn, well, the second highest rated recruit in Auburn history. Now he's making money on Sunday. What they say is the typical 5-star recruit usually is going to develop obviously really quickly on the Power 5 level, and usually is going to make it to the NFL. I'm telling you guys, do not write Bo Nix off just yet. It's too early. Played a great defense, but why Bama, Georgia 5-star? Well, a lot of them don't, because you see that a lot of those guys hit the transfer portal because they don't make it. It's so many of them. We've had a group of 5 on the offensive line. Just didn't pan out. Well, you got to look at it too. Auburn hasn't really had a lot of continuity coaching staff wise at the offensive line position. I think with Jack Bicknell down the stretch, you're going to definitely see a change in that. So don't worry, just give it a little time. We got offensive linemen that were just thrown together that nobody wanted. The conference of defense you can't survive, man. You absolutely can't survive. So to end this off, I projected that Auburn would lose this game 24-21. I wasn't really close. I was close in what Georgia did, but I expected Auburn to be a little bit more productive than they were. But this is still a game because, and I told you guys this in my video, this is a game that I thought Auburn would struggle in on the offensive side. You saying I really expected the defense to help out a little bit more than they did, but they had a lot of adversity going on. Had Smoke Monday go down. It looked like KJ Britt was battling injury throughout the game. The defensive line, they're still, whether you saw it or not, the defensive line, they're still trying to piece together what this defensive line is going to look like. Okay, guys, I have another video that I plan to do with a representative from Georgia. He's a guy that is a really good friend of mine. We've done some podcasts together. We plan on doing another live stream recapping the Auburn Georgia game from a Georgia perspective. You know, of course, I'm gonna put my spin in, but we want to talk about this a little bit more because this is not as doom and gloom as y'all make it out to be. I watched Tom Turner and the staff take 3 stars and consistently develop and win games. Gus and his staff constantly underachieve. Woo! You're right, in a way. You're right. They underachieve in ways that we don't understand why they underachieve. See, you got to look at the fact that Auburn has to compete against LSU, Alabama, and Georgia every year. Those teams compete. Those are 3 games right there that they're never going to be favored to win in just because of the recruiting alone. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And let's see. We need another outside of Williams. We recruited well at the receiver recently. Hopefully 1 or 2 can step up. Still got time, man. Second game of the season. You lost to a real – just accept it. I know we hate Georgia. We hate them. But we just lost to a really good football team. And a football team that's going to really be successful this year, as well as Auburn is going to continue to improve and prove themselves to be successful this season. All right, guys, that's my time here. I absolutely love all of you all. Also, you know, Auburn fans have it's a subculture of Auburn fans, which I may break down in a video later on. But I love all you guys, and I understand the emotionalism. And you want to beat Georgia, but you got to be realistic. Auburn just wasn't there last night. But that's not to say that this is not going to be a good football team in 2020. If you are not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. I appreciate you all tuning in. I plan to be back in some form before the night is over. And we got a long week, another long week. We got to talk about Arkansas. Matter of fact, I'm trying to dig up a Arkansas podcaster that I've done some things with in the past. And we will reconvene probably this afternoon. And Mark Anthony Richards, I do have some questions about that. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It's a beautiful Sunday. War Eagle.